Yo dog, Kenny Boucher here, Next Level Painting, hitting you up on another Friday, the literal best of all days. We got an exciting, full-length tutorial today. We're going to be chronicling the growth and development of the Carnifexes for this massive Tyranids collection I've been working on. All magnetized, everything, sig bases, new color schemes. So we're keeping this in the traditional autumn leaves themed paint scheme we've been working on these Tyranids in. With a couple of new detailing tricks, but overall we're going to be just working on these Carnifexes for like 20 minutes. Now let's talk about the most important thing right now. The Long War Kickstarter is live at this very moment. Obviously, I don't have to tell you that it's very important to us in bringing hobby back. We use all the money we make to bring hobby back in our way. Making these videos even better, getting better editing software, getting better computers, being able to handle bigger workloads. Better lights, better cameras, better mics, everything. But of course, there's going to be rewards. So if you're trying to get a Long War t-shirt, a Long War hoodie, that's a secret stealth goal right there. Trying to get a shot glass, you're trying to get bundles with the dice, the templates, and every piece of swag you've been seeing in the battle reports. This is how you do it. Follow the links in the description box. Follow the link that I'm throwing up somewhere here on this page. Please check it out, throw whatever you can at us, and we can bring hobby back together. Real quick, brings me to Patreon. Patreon's been working. Thank you guys for the support there. That's my personal artist-based crowdfunding page. Continued support there has been helping me on a personal level bring hobby back. Okay, thelongwar.net. That's your resource for all early and exclusive access to all these hobby videos. It's growing every day. We've got new videos that are one of a kind only for the Hall of Veterans. And don't forget the discount promotion codes available over there at thelongwar.net. Promotioning done. Tutorial engage. Let's do this thing. Let's paint these 9 Carnifexes assembly line style. Hitting it hard with a little bit of Army Painter. Primer. Demonic yellow is the truth. And you can see. Don't fucking play games with yellow. Just buy yourself some Army Painter. Let it just do this and work your way back from that highlight. Also, Airbrush Flow Improver from Vallejo. And obviously going to be pulling out that stupid Minotaur paint, which I hate. But it's just so perfect for this one thing I've been using. I've been holding this orange for years. As usual, the yellow is the highlight. We're going in for the first shade. This is kind of like the direct transition. This is not the darkest shadow, but this is the neutral. So we're going in here with this mid-tone. We're going to find all the spots that we want the appendages to sprout from, all the little areas under the carapace, anything that you think would look awesome. I like to think of the darker areas that would be in shadow. But additionally, it is an alien, so I'm drawing it out. I'm letting it be my inspiration as I see those shadows. Pull them out, try to create some interesting transitions. This is not a realistic style. This is a fantastic, alien, just never been seen before style. So this is what the airbrush lets you do. The airbrush really lets you explore these super interesting color schemes. So obviously, if you don't have an airbrush, buy your ass an airbrush. I recommend the Iwata Eclipse. It's the truth. The video I just put out on airbrush maintenance is all about an Iwata Eclipse. I can pretty much answer any questions about this airbrush. It is simply the best in the biz for running heavy acrylics. There might be better airbrushes for other things, but for miniatures, doing this a long time, man. Do yourself a favor, save up the money, buy this airbrush. So as you can see, we're finding out the little spots on the smokestacks, under those carapace plates. Anything you think would cast a shadow, like I've said. But don't stop there, literally let your imagination run wild with it. This is almost like paint by numbers. I just built the foundation very subtly to show to help me guide my hand to where I really want to darken it up. And of course, pull out the Airbrush Flow Improver, and we're going to move into another classic next level painting color. That's Scarlet Red from the Vallejo Model Air Series. The red is the truth. So what we're trying to focus on here now is really darkening up from the center out of a lot of these points we just outlined with that mid-tone, that orange, that pumpkin orange. We're trying to create the smoothest transitions, and there's a couple of tricks that it's really hard with yellow, you know what I mean? Like if you're using a yellow base, anytime you have high contrast, like something really bright going to something really dark, speckling is going to be a problem. So I recommend keeping the tip clean. I use a toothbrush with a little bit of water, and I periodically scrub any of the paint that is built up on the tip there off. That helps it, because what happens is as that paint like crusts onto your needle, it kind of disrupts the flow of paint coming out after it, the speckling and shooting all over everywhere, only exasperating the speckling that's already naturally going to occur because of high contrast. So you can see we're taking this red and we're just intensifying, fortifying the shadows that we created with that really soft, very ghost tint style of orange. And here we go. This is kind of the framework we're working with right here. You really can't see it on the camera here, but there is way more speckling than I'm comfortable with. So we're going to pull out that Airbrush Flow Improver and we're going to go back to the Minotaur Pumpkin Orange, because this is kind of one of the tricks to smoothing out those speckles and getting a smooth transition. We're going to reapply the Pumpkin Orange back to where the Pumpkin Orange should be, but over the red instead of the red over the orange, because you get a different effect. If you paint red over orange, it's different than painting orange over red. So we're basically blurring the line between the red and the orange and the yellow that we already established with a little bit more of this red. And what it's, with this pumpkin orange. And what it's really doing is it's wiping out the speckles. So this is kind of like going back and forth. This is a working it back and forth technique. You know, we start with the bright, we go to the mid, we go to the dark, we go back to the mid. You just gotta keep working it, especially with this organic style that we're painting these alien themed models here, like this really strange color scheme. You really got to work it back and forth. But once we apply the orange here, we're almost done working it back and forth. We can go almost straight to the highlight. But anytime you see speckles, this is a good trick to wiping them out. Go back to your midtone and keep it real thin. So I'm debuting Army Painter's 100% match set. This is their War Games colors, and these match their primers. So this is not an airbrush paint, but you see I poured some in there with some flow improver, as usual. I'm stirring it up with a paintbrush, and it's going to be an airbrushable consistency now. So this is supposed to match the yellow we already had. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to just reestablish some of that pure yellow on the peaks of some of these plates, where maybe I got a little too aggressive with that pumpkin orange just a minute ago. This also, in case there still was any speckling, this helps get rid of that speckling while reestablishing the highlight. We're not going to stop here though, obviously. This is still exactly the yellow that we started with. We have to go beyond that for the highlight. Like I said, we're working it back and forth, and it's all about making really subtle leaps and not huge leaps when you're doing a high contrast, because you will completely distort and speckle out your model otherwise. So take your time and always put in that extra step, that really subtle transition step, because I know it's really in your mind. You just want to go, yo, I'm gonna paint this model red and then I'm gonna highlight it yellow. It's never gonna look good. So you gotta take your time, gotta be methodical here. So what you get is you get an amazing model when you're done here. This is not a fast process. A lot of people think the airbrush is just so quick. Yes, if I was gonna like hand blend this would be faster, but this is like it's a labor of love here. We're going back and forth and just creating the transition we want. Don't be afraid to go back and forth, man. The airbrush is so soft and so subtle, like it doesn't really build up. So yet again, yank out that Airbrush Flow Improver. Now we're gonna go to the Vallejo Moon Yellow. This is the brightest yellow they have. And I'm gonna mix it a little bit up with some white, because I wanna go right to that highlight. And we're gonna start right here on the carapace, very carefully, very slowly and subtly. We're gonna start drawing out a highlight there without letting it spill over to the red. This takes practice. I recommend practicing on a postcard with just water at first, and then graduate up to paint. We're going to also hit the tops of those smokestacks. We're going to transition into doing the tail, the knees, his stomach, like all the little areas that we want to brighten up. Just always, like, obviously move away from where the highlight is. It's not always going to make sense. Like, it's not like where the light's impacting them. I don't make decisions all the time based on where I think the light should hit the model. I'd say most of the time I'm driven by what looks cool to me and where the model is taking me. Sometimes you never learn how to paint. Sometimes you only learn how to paint the model you're working on. So here he is. He's got his highlights. He's got his shadows. And he's looking pretty good. I don't mind saying that. He looks like a badass. So we're going to put this guy down after we seal coat him. I recommend Testers Model Masters, Lusterless. And we're going to move straight into another super secret ancient Chinese trick. That is Army Painter Chaotic Red. This is also a color we've been using a lot of lately. So basically we're going to paint all the carapace plates that we left off with this red. We quickly, and I didn't even show it to you, but I quickly highlighted the edge of this with Scarlet Red, which is also an ancient Chinese trick, but I mixed it with Troll Slayer Orange, which is another gangster gumbo. And what we're doing here is we're just blending it and highlighting it back in from the tips. We're trying to create a really interesting red here. And it doesn't need to be truly red. Like, you can let the orange show here, because we are trying to create an autumn themed army here. We don't need to be saying this is red. This can be any red we want. This can be anything in between. So now that I'm happy with what I got, I'm going to glue it right onto the model because I just want to get it out of my hand. So I stop fumbling it around and drop it on the floor. I will literally drop everything I ever paint once. It's not painted till you drop it. And we're going to move right into doing the same thing we just did, but to the face. And you can see the head, it goes right in there. Super easy. You can magnetize it if you want. You can, but I don't care. Like, I'm just going to glue it in. And now we're going to do the same thing. Pull out that Airbrush flow improver. Can't recommend this enough. Mix it in with the Scarlet Red and do that first highlight. And we're going to just kind of blast his face. Like I said, most people would say it should come from the top down, but I already know what part of the model is visible and what isn't. So I don't want to just go do all this work highlighting something you're not going to see under that carapace. So I'm highlighting his face, his nose and his eyes, and just pushing it back toward his neck. And we're going to kind of do the same thing we did on that top carapace. We're going to pull out the Airbrush flow improver again once we get to that stage. And of course, we're going to pull out our orange. And this is one of the only GW paints I still use, is the Troll Slayer Orange, because it's just such a fantastic orange. And with just a little flow improver, it's basically an airbrush paint. A little bit of water, a little bit of flow improver. And we're going to finish that highlight. We're going to fortify, double down on that highlight, give it a nice look. Once you're happy with the transition and you don't think there's any speckling, then you can put it down, let it dry, throw a seal coat on it. We're going to go right back into the into the flow improver, and we're going to pull out Burnt Umber. This is the greatest brown of all time. And we're going to just darken the ridge of this carapace here. Kind of right. I should have done this before I glued it on, but I forgot. This is the 9th Carnifex I painted. So sometimes you forget your system because you just get so, brain dead from it all. Same thing on the head. We're going to just throw some of that Burnt Umber in there, try to create a nice shadow. Give it a nice transition. And on those little spikes on his head, same deal. We're going to burn the tips out of them. They make it just kind of more interesting than just red. Trying to make that airbrush work for us. So now it's time to go OG. Pull out that Troll Slayer Orange again. Pull out your paintbrush and go in there and start highlighting the facial features. We're not going to highlight every surface on this. We're not going to go insane here like I literally own an airbrush, so I don't have to do that anymore. But you owe it to yourself to go in there with that time you saved, because you did save some time, and highlight the ridges of the face. Highlight the ridges of the carapace, highlight the knees, everything. And I'll walk you through that here. So we're just using a little Troll Slayer Orange. We're mixing it. We know obviously I got a little bit of red that I'm mixing it with so I can build it. Like, I'm not here to teach you how to do highlighting. Everyone's got their own way to paintbrush. I'm just showing you the areas that I would focus on. And the more the highlight, the more orange I would use. But I would work my way up to it just like we did with the airbrush. So I'm going to start establishing those lines, drawing them in, drawing in the lips, the brow ridges, just trying to really make the facial features pop on this guy, because I don't want to just be ever accused of being lazy. I spent like an hour literally airbrushing this guy to perfection. You know what I mean? So if I have 9 Carnifexes, that's basically 9 hours, which I did have 9 Carnifexes. And of course, we left the arms off, we magnetized everything, because it's really easy on these types of models. So you can see here that we are getting a nice clean highlight on that jaw ridge now. He's looking thoroughly angry. He's coming to life. We're popping out those details. Some of those details are harder than others, like the little indentations that his teeth create in his skin, and You know, just follow it. This is, I mean, highlighting is paint by numbers if you want it to be, because we've airbrushed the highlight on and it kind of showed us where we should put our paintbrush. So you don't really have to overthink it. Just kind of trace brighter colors on these raised ridges, and that's basically how you highlight these types of models, especially these organic ones. So I don't want to linger too much on this face, but apparently I am, because, you know, I get really hyper-focused when I'm filming, and sometimes you just got to roll with it, and you got to see something that you don't want to see. Like, I feel like we've lingered on his face long enough. So let's move on to the next stage, which I believe is going to be highlighting the carapace. And it looks like we're going to pull out Scarlet Red, and you guessed it, Troll Slayer Orange. So what we're going to do here is kind of much the same. Start establishing highlights on these ridges. And you know, a lot of people go crazy with the lines, just going nutso. I'm not going to go crazy, but I am going to go stylized. So we're going to try to build a nice rolling highlight. It's got to be brighter than the colors all around it. So I'm just trying to dial it in right now with Troll Slayer Orange and that Scarlet Red and finding the combo that I like. And then I'm going to just start working it up to a brighter orange from the outer ridge there. And I'm kind of following those notches that are already in the armor that is provided in the cast as my guideline. I'm not going to draw all these lines. I'm just going to draw lines from those notches. And you can see it's already given us a fantastic effect. And this just takes practice, man. If you're having trouble getting a straight line, don't worry. I had trouble with a straight line too. Literally, you just got to roll with it, and you just got to practice, and you just got to be confident. Don't be afraid to put these lines on. Like, if you're afraid, you're never going to try. You could practice on anything, though. And you didn't have to glue the carapace on. You could have done it in your hand, so if you did mess it up, you could have gone back and airbrushed it. But I already knew it was going to be fine because I already painted 8 of these. Same deal now. We're really establishing a highlight here, going back to that Troll Slayer Orange and really drawing a nice, clean orange highlight where we just started laying it out with that Scarlet Red. And this kind of creates a three-dimensional effect. If you draw like a darker line and then a lighter line off to the side, it kind of gives you the illusion that it's really scored in there. So as you can see here, that's what we did. Pretty happy with that, making me feel good. But now the tricky part is definitely going to be how we're going to make the rest of the carapace look good after this. You know, after a couple of little finishing touches, dropping off a few more highlights, we're going to move right into the yellow carapace. Same 2 colors. Mix them up as you need them into the combination you need. But we're going to start off with red, and we're going to kind of draw a nice clean line in between the armor plates. This really helps give you that definition and that contrast you need. That thing that you can't quite control with the airbrush. So just a few minutes of drawing these lines really sharpens the model. And we're going to start by drawing red lines inside these notches too. And that's going to kind of give us the base of where we want to draw the carapace lines on the yellow. And the yellow is going to be a little bit harder because yellow is a soft color. Yellow doesn't play fucking games, man. Yellow is definitely a beastly color to try to control. So just being slow, being methodical, drawing those lines in there, just beginning the base where I'm going to start drawing the real nice streaky lines. So obviously I'm going to pull out my orange and really start ghosting it in. You see, like I'm not going hard in the paint just yet. Drawing a nice subtle one, and then I'm working the red back into it. And if you go overkill with the red, that's no big deal. Pull out the Army Painter yellow. That is a perfect match to the yellow. That's our base color. And, you know, blend it in a little bit. You can start wiping out the mistakes you've made. You just kind of have to work it back and forth until you get it to look like you want. And now we're going to go to our highlight. This is the moon yellow, and this is the white mixed together. And we're going to draw nice thin lines like we did before on the red plate and try to create three-dimensional scoring. You can see it's giving us a really interesting effect here. We're not going crazy drawing 1,000 lines. We're drawing literally like 8 lines, but we're making them nice, sweeping lines with nice curvature to them, a really nice definition. And that really gives you that look. And we're going to do a lot of what we just did again here on the plates. We're going to draw a quick highlight on these armor plates on the leg using the same color combo, yellow and white. And then, of course, we're going to go back in there and hit up those plates with a little Scarlet Red, so that we can really create that definition that we've been talking about. You don't just want to let it ride yellow to yellow. And look how much, look at this. Like, this is literally 10 seconds of work, and look how much more interesting it already is. And if you're not happy with it, just go in with some orange and blend it back in. You can spend as much time as you want on this part of the model. But as you can see, we have a pretty solid model here, man. Like, I'm pretty happy with this right here. And he obviously doesn't look like much because he's not on his base. He also doesn't have his arms. It looks like a poor little, Tyrannosaurus Rex, but we'll get to that. Let's finish out detailing his little face. We're going to use Privateer Press Paint. This is one of my favorites, Menoth White Highlight, and just go in, paint the teeth. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is easy work right here. We'll paint out all the teeth, and now we're going to paint that tongue here in just a second. And when we get to that tongue, we're going to be using the color we've been using for a lot of this, which is another P3 paint, Gnarls Green. Take the Gnarls Green out, slather it on his tongue, just make it nice and smooth, call it done. And then we're going to, since we have that Gnarls Green out, you'll notice that we're kind of painting a lot of the accents green on these models, because it's like supposed to be that autumn theme. Like, there's some green still with the orange and the yellows, so try to find a way to put that green on everything. And the thing that we're going to put this green on next is those little hooves that these guys have. That's a pretty easy one, but you can see here, he's beautiful. Like, just love showing him off. But definitely going to yank that green back out and just go crazy. Anything you can think of be green. Any of the splits in the thighs, like I said before 100 times, you can put as much work into this model as you want. These are how I paint 9 Carnifexes. Like, I've got to cut some corners as a professional, but I've got to come up with techniques to create an exciting model. I can't like paint every detail in the model the same way I would if it was just one. So this is like a technique I've engineered to be able to paint 9. You want to bang out 9, you want them to look amazing, you want them to look better than 99% of models that you see out there. These are the tricks, man. So now he's got the green hooves, he's got the green tongue, but we're not going to stop there. We own an airbrush, dog. We're going to go back to the airbrush, and we're going to pull out an ancient next level painting secret. Necrotite green from Privateer Press. Get it in your airbrush, obviously flow improver, and highlight that hoof. Be nice and methodical. Try not to overspray too bad here, and you'll see here, boom, there it is. It would have taken you 1,000 hours to hand blend that effect. It took us just 1 second. Same thing on the tongue. Move it up to the tongue and just give it a nice little highlight in the tongue. And as I've said before, you can go as hard here as you want. You can throw yellow in here. You can throw anything in here, man. Just, the world's your oyster, man, with the airbrush. You just gotta put thought into it, practice the mechanical elements of it, and master the airbrush. Once you master the airbrush, it'll become one of the best tools in your arsenal. So the last thing we're gonna do on this model is we can't do a model without using wash somewhere. Pull out the Vallejo Sepia wash. Loving this wash. And now we're gonna wash his teeth. Go in there, make his teeth nice and realistic. I was tempted to paint the teeth green, but I really feel like that was just overboard. So it turns out that Menoth White base plus sepia wash equals, looks like real teeth, dog. So I'm not going to show you how to paint the arms. You can apply all the techniques we just showed you to the arms. But I am going to show you the model with the magnetic arms and how cool he looks now. He's going to really start looking like a real boy. There it is. 2 sets of silent talons on one side. But we did them all, but I just had the silent talons ready to go. I got the little one, I got the big one. He is starting to look really nice, and I'm really proud of this model. I can't say enough, like, Tyranids is one of the most difficult armies to paint. So I really was, so happy to have the opportunity to do a tutorial with, a traditional Tyranid, like especially a Carnifex, which is like the OGest of OG monstrous bugs. This guy is ancient. And here he is. There's a better picture of him. He's looking fresh on his base. He's got the tusks. This is a different one I painted earlier. He's got the gamer's grass on his base and the autumn leaves. He is sexy, if I don't mind saying so myself. He's also movable. He's got the action kung fu grip. I am really proud of that model, and I'm super glad you checked out this tutorial. Thanks for watching, players. Finally, the Long War Kickstarter is here. We are trying to raise money to improve all elements of our videos. Cameras, microphones, lighting, and even editing software. We're more than just a company dedicated to bringing hobby back, we're a community. Whether you enjoy all of our content for free here on YouTube, or you're a member of the fast-growing Hall of Veterans and you enjoy early exclusive access, we're part of the same community. It's not all business though. All the Long War swag that you guys have been waiting for is available on the Kickstarter. Please stop by, check out our Kickstarter, and thank you for the support.